invite you to be kindly be seated, and I invite Jeff to come forward to offer some words of remembrance.
Why did we all love Mike so much? The Archdiocese is wise to allow just 5 minutes for this part of the Mass. We can't tell Mike's story in 5 minutes, but in an hour or two, we do know better. Still, we should try to say something. I knew teacher Mike, but whether we knew childhood Mike, or hockey Mike, or Marine Mike, or family Mike, or neighborhood Mike, we all knew the same man. So why did we all love Mike so much? Well, here are my 3 guesses. First, I think we loved Mike for his playful creativity. When a Marine commander says, "Take that hill," he doesn't want Marines brainstorming, generating creative alternatives, thinking outside the box. We look to Marines for valor and strength and disciplined obedience, but not creativity, really. But Marine Corps Mike was wildly, thrillingly creative in the classroom. It would be easy to multiply stories of Mike looking for the edge in his teaching and even going over the edge sometimes. Second, yes, we loved Mike for his courage. He was a Marine for a period in his life, but really for all of his life. And the courage of the Corps was deep in him. Mike stayed in the classroom well past the time when less courageous others would have surrendered. Mike sent me a drone video this fall of one of his crazy nuts social studies classes. His water balloon reenactment of the Battle of Bunker Hill. It's kids scooting around their butts on little carts, launching balloons at 6th grade adversaries, hiding behind fortifications built from gym mats. All of this out in the parking lot, all madness and mayhem and joy. Mike wrote to me that the activity was an epic fail. But of course, many kids considered it the most exciting day of their school lives. The reason there was drone video of the event, though, was this. Mike's teacher colleagues were terrified that Mike was so weak, so in danger of falling or fainting, or perhaps dying outside during the lesson. They sent our technology teacher, Chris, outside to take the drone shots, an excuse for Chris to keep an eye on our precious Mike. It takes courage to teach Mike's way with fearless creativity. And Mike taught that way to the last. Mike's courage worried us in those last days of his teaching career. He simply would not stop. Do you remember Monty Python and the Holy Grail? When Arthur, King of the Britons, challenges the Black Knight at the bridge. "Your arm's off, victory is mine," says Arthur. "It's only a flesh wound," says the knight. There was a bit of the Black Knight in Mike those last days. And really, if he'd thrown himself on a landmine, I don't think he could have died any more nobly. And Mike was courageous in facing death. Teachers who knew I'd once been a clergyman would say, "Oh, I think Mike's ready to talk to Jeff about death now. That's my niche." I probed the topic with Mike, and it didn't interest him a bit. Marines don't think about dying. They think about completing their mission. And Mike's mission was to teach until he could no longer walk or stand, and to teach even then. He told me, "I won't waste a minute of sleep or of life worrying about death." Finally, I think we love Mike for his humility. Trappist monk Thomas Merton said the greatest of all saints was Mary, that Mary was the greatest saint because she was the emptiest. Mary was so humble, so empty of concerns of self, that her interior, her mind and heart, were spacious and open and welcoming, with enough empty space to accommodate the indwelling of God. Those who played hockey with Mike will laugh when I suggest that Mike was a little like the Virgin Mary. But let me make my point and see if you don't agree. Mike was empty like Mary in his own humble way. His interior, his mind and heart weren't crowded with ego, with vanity and pride and thoughts of self. Mike's mind and heart were open and welcoming, with plenty of room to receive each of us. Ashley says that Mike maintained an astonishing number of friendships. From earliest childhood, college and Marine Corps, hockey and hunting, school and neighborhood, he could hold these many friends in his heart and in his consciousness because he so lacked self-consciousness. Mike's mom told me a Mike fact I didn't know. Mike started college with the intention of becoming an artist. He had a particular gift for seeing and for drawing in exquisite and painstaking detail. And Ashley explained to me that Mike saw and knew all of us in similarly fine detail, and could store all that data about us in his mind because he was more interested in us than in himself. Humility, I think, is what made Mike so Mike. He could take the risk of teaching playfully and creatively, risk an epic fail in social studies class because he cared little to impress others. He could risk appearing in the classroom in his broken body because he cared more for his students and his mission than he did for his own vanity, for his presentation of himself. And he could face death with equanimity because he was so humble, because unlike the rest of us, he could imagine a world without Mike Taraborrelli. A Zen master once said, "If a man looks into himself and finds no self, the angel of death will not be able to find him. If a man looks into himself and finds no self, the angel of death will not be able to find him. Mike was so empty of self that he could be filled instead with his love for each of us. And now, though the angel of death has finally found him, Mike is yet alive in each of us who loved him. So thanks be to God for the life of Mike Taraborrelli. Amen.
Thank you, Jeff. We appreciate your words.